So you can see that the Mr. Robot vulnerable machine has started here. And if I go to the Kali Linux, you can see that that's started too. So first thing I'm going to do is go into the Kali. So the username's Kali and the password's Kali. If this was actually a professional installation or something that we were going to use, then I would strongly suggest that we change the password here. So I'll give that a minute once we log in. Let's swap to the Mr. Robot. Just show you that it's just waiting for us to insert a password. We don't actually know that just yet, so for that reason, can't really do anything with that VirtualBox as it is. So now that we've got the two virtual machines up and running, and hopefully on the same network, so we can confirm that now. So I'll just make this slightly larger, and I'm going to do the Linux command ifconfig to check the IP addresses on this machine. And if I scoot up here, you can see that the IP address is 192.168.28.4. If I was to bring up the network manager here, and you can see it's 192.168.28.1, and then it starts handing out addresses from 3 to 254. So we can see that they're on that network. So this one is 4. I would presume that the vulnerable machine is on 28.3, but we will check what IP addresses are available. So to do that, we can do that in a couple of ways. One is doing a net discover, which is probably the most common way of doing it. Do a R for a range, and effectively then we put in the I've put in the 0, as I know that the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0, which basically means network, 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 and host. I know that these three represent any machine on this network, and the last one is the only one that's going to be unique. And I'm going to start from 0, and I'm going to scan the whole network just to see IP addresses are out there. Now, in order to use that, I need to be root. So I'm just going to retype that, and then I set to the password. This should now start scanning and will actually show me all the IP addresses which are available. Okay. Once I'm convinced that's finished, that is, I can also confirm it with a scan, address resolution protocol scan. And if I do that, I can also confirm I can also scan, and you can see those 3 addresses are there. I know that this one is 4. So what I'm going to do now is I can effectively ping 68.28.3. You can see I'm getting a ping back from IP. So now that I know that there are some devices out there, I can effectively use NetScan in order to actually ascertain what services are running on these machines. Okay, so now that I know there are some IP addresses or some systems out there, we've got three available. One will be the DHCP server, and the other one is going to be our vulnerable machine. What I want to know now is what services are running on these devices. So what I'm going to use here is a Nmap, and by using Nmap, this will allow me or allow us to be able to scan the devices and actually get some useful information from them. So first of all, Nmap has to be run as a super user or root user. So we use the command sudo. Then we have Nmap itself as the command. And then the SC is going to run a script that effectively will discover and scan the system almost stealth mode as quietly as possible. And I also need to see what versions of services that are running on this or on these machines. So this will give us a list of services, but also the version of those services. I want to do an aggressive scan. So effectively, it's going to really push and try and get an answer from each of the machines on this network. -on is going to give us an output, and this output I can then store in a text file, and I'm going to call this text file Mr. Robot. And I'm then going to give it the network range, and with the asterisk, I'm telling it to scan all machines within that network range. Once I'm happy with the command itself, I can press enter, enter the password, Kali, and this will make sure that this runs in an elevated root mode. And then this will take some time, but effectively it will gather as much information as it can and then store that information into a text file that we can review later on. So in true Blue Peter fashion, I'm going to stop this now. As I said, this will take some time, and I've actually done this previously and created a text file with all the information that I needed to know already here. So we can see that was the instruction that was being run. And this is the information that came back, and it was stored in a text file. As I said, we can review later on. So you can see that we checked the first IP address, and on that 192.168.28.1, the host is up, and we have a number of services running on here. So we have a Microsoft Windows remote protocol. So from a desktop, we have a NetBIOS running on here. Not quite sure if there's a domain server running, but we have got HTTP protocol running on a 2869 port. So we've covered that there are some ports open on this machine that we could further investigate if we wanted to. As we go on, it starts to get a fingerprint, giving us the MAC address for the virtual machine, but it also does some guesses as to the operating system that's running on this machine. So it's a Windows 10 or a derivative from that. Gives us the possible versions of operating system, but it's not quite sure. I can tell you that it's actually picking up that this is a Windows 11 machine host that this is actually running on. Again, some useful information here. SMB version 2, time is running. So this is effectively if the VM wanted to leave this private network, then this would be the gateway out, which would be the 1. 2 would be the DHCP, I would imagine. So again, we've got a few things here. And we can see that there is a port 80 open running Apache, but this is on IP version 3. So on version 3, 192.168.28.3, we can see there's 2 ports. 22 is closed, and port 80 is open, and that's running HTTP, and it's running Apache. So straight away, I can determine from this that we are running a website on this particular machine. So on this address, I'll just make a copy of that. We are running a web server, and that we can take a look at that in a moment. We can see that there is port 80 and 443, which is HTTPS, is also running on this particular system, so the more secure connection. We also can see that it's running on a Linux machine. So basically, we can gather some useful information here. 4 is Kali Linux, and you can see here it's picking up some information, but not as much as it has done from the others. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to open the web browser, and we can now take a look at 192.168.28.3, and we can actually see if it's actually running a web page. So I'll just type the address in, 192.168.28.3, and let's just see if there is a web page running here. And it is. It's running the web page, and it's given us the screen or a loading screen similar to that you would find on any Linux, but it is running a very animated web page. This is obviously based on the Mr. Robot's TV series, so if you haven't watched it, I do suggest that you do go out and have a look at it. It's a very interesting series. But there you go. So we've been able to find our vulnerable machine on a network, not having the IP address to start with, and being able to use a couple of techniques to actually locate it and confirm that it is existing, and we can now access that machine, albeit through its web services for the moment. In the next video, we will go a little bit further and see how we can actually hack this machine.